Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly absolutely crucial topic: the hidden traps that quietly derail well-planned retirements. We're going to unpack exactly what separates a genuinely wealthy, secure retirement from one that just leaves people constantly stressed out and moving backwards. And we're doing this by looking at the specific assets, the commitments, and those sneaky hidden costs that literally drain wealth right under your nose.
Okay, let's dive into this. Consider the story of a gentleman we'll just call Dave. Dave spent 40 years working as a highly disciplined medical doctor down in Johannesburg. He saved consistently, did literally everything right, and at 65 he retired with a nest egg that, frankly, anyone would be thrilled to have. But just 5 years into his retirement, Dave was stressed. I mean, incredibly stressed. His money just wasn't stretching the way it was supposed to. Instead of enjoying those golden years he'd worked so hard for, he was watching his wealth quietly disappear.
So, why was Dave's wealth quietly disappearing? Well, the truly heartbreaking part of Dave's story is that he didn't make some massive, catastrophic error. No, he made several small ones. The kind of financial decisions that look perfectly reasonable in the moment. The kind of commitments nobody really warns you about. It wasn't about how much money he saved, it was about the specific assets he bought and the commitments he made after he retired. Actually, they're probably the exact same commitments you might be considering right now.
This brings us to our first major theme, the illusion of ownership. This is when physical assets suddenly become financial burdens.
You see, we often have these deep emotional ties to physical property, but those emotions, they can completely mask some truly terrible financial math. Take timeshares and coastal holiday homes, for example. The glossy brochures market them so beautifully. They promise a guaranteed week of luxury, a magical place for the grandkids to build memories, a tangible legacy. But the reality? Once you sign that dotted line, you are locked into unpredictable, absolutely relentless levy increases and incredibly harsh coastal maintenance costs. Oh, in the resale market, it's practically worthless. The truth is, wealthy retirees just rent luxury. They get total flexibility with zero levies. And this brilliantly illustrates just how real the danger of emotional investing is. This number right here, 4.5%, was the brutally honest net yield of one retiree's 4 million rand investment in 3 Pretoria rental flats. That was over an entire decade. 10 years of ownership, 10 years of constant stress. And when you factor in real-term inflation, she actually lost purchasing power on her capital.
Let's look at the hidden drains. Over those 10 years, one tenant simply stopped paying rent, and it took 12 full months just to evict them. When they finally left, the property was heavily damaged. Add in the rates, the levies, the never-ending maintenance, the agent fees, and poof, the returns completely evaporated. Now, obviously, location matters. Different regions yield different results for sure. But way too many retirees hold on to underperforming physical properties purely out of this emotional desire to just own property, rather than treating it like the strict, unforgiving business it actually is. Moving on to our second trap, the cost of complexity. We're talking opaque fees, hidden commissions, and totally invisible risks.
Sometimes the financial industry itself is the trap. Which brings us to the single most absolutely crucial question every single retiree must ask their advisor. How are you being paid for this recommendation? Seriously, ask it. Let me tell you about a couple in their 60s. They had a great nest egg, a super safe 4% withdrawal rate, and they desperately wanted to leave a legacy for their 3 kids. But an advisor sold them an incredibly expensive life annuity alongside a costly life insurance policy. Why? Simply because of the massive upfront commissions paid the day they signed the dotted line. That life annuity paid absolutely nothing to their estate when they passed, meaning their legacy goals were instantly wiped out. Also, the advisor could score a payday.
Then there's the overwhelming temptation to chase yield. With inflation constantly rising, the promise of high-income returns is incredibly seductive. You think you're buying a safe, high-yield product, right? But often, especially in the case of high-yield unsecured lending, what you're actually doing is taking on the extreme credit risk of the most financially vulnerable borrowers out there. When the economy tightens up, these borrowers default in huge numbers all at once. The companies collapse, the income vanishes, and retirees can literally lose their entire capital. You simply cannot afford to make your safe money behave like risk-heavy growth money.
You're also going to encounter structured products. They promise the world, don't they? Market-linked growth, downside protection, guaranteed income, the whole shebang. But here's the secret. Their complexity is actually a deliberate design feature.
These convoluted structures make it virtually impossible for you to comparison shop or to clearly see the embedded fees and restricted liquidity. So here is a golden rule wealthy retirees live by. If you cannot explain simply, in plain language, how your money is working, you should not own that product. Period. Now, what's really interesting about this breakdown is the invisible drain of actively managed funds. When you stack up the advisor fee, platform costs, admin charges, and total expense ratios, your total annual cost could easily blow right past 3.5%. That means 3.5% of your hard-earned money is completely consumed every single year before your investment has even grown by a single rand. Think about that. Over a 20 to 30-year retirement, that fee drag compounds into a genuinely life-changing loss of capital.
This brings us to a really tough one, the dangerous trap of love. We're looking at Ubuntu and the heavy cost of blurred financial boundaries.
This is arguably the most quietly destructive trap on our entire list. And look, it's an uncomfortable conversation because it isn't strictly about money, is it? It's about family, it's about love, and the cultural beauty of Ubuntu. But consider this real retired couple in their late 60s. Over a span of just 5 years, they subsidized their perfectly capable adult children. A bond deposit here for a daughter going through a tough divorce, living expenses for a son looking for work, paying for a grandchild's private school. In the moment, each little piece felt totally manageable. But when you add it all up, 1.4 million rand gone, right out of their retirement savings.
And here is the brutal mathematical reality of what that actually means. At a standard 5% withdrawal rate, that missing 1.4 million rand costs those parents 70,000 rand a year in lost additional income for the rest of their lives. That's money that is no longer compounding, it's no longer fighting inflation, and it's no longer there to fund the private healthcare they are inevitably going to need. Which leads us to this truly heartbreaking irony. The parents who sacrifice the most to prop up their capable adult children in retirement are almost always the ones who end up financially dependent on those exact same children a decade later. It's wild, right? The exact outcome they were desperately trying to avoid, being a burden on their family, becomes completely inevitable simply because they gave away their own safety net.
So, to stop this cycle, successful retirees set really firm boundaries early on. They look their children in the eye and say, "We love you completely. And because we love you, we need to protect our retirement. We cannot be your financial safety net." It's about distinguishing between a genuine short-term crisis, like a sudden medical emergency, and a permanent financial subsidy. Honestly, remaining financially independent is the greatest, most loving gift a parent can actually give to their adult kids.
Let's move to our final section and see how this all builds into actionable solutions. What the wealthy do. Rules for a secure and flexible retirement.
Now that we know the traps, what do financially secure, wealthy retirees actually do differently? Well, they follow a very clear playbook. Step 1, they demand simple, transparent, and liquid investments. Step 2, they rent luxury to maintain ultimate flexibility without those crushing maintenance bills. Step 3, they fiercely control fees by utilizing low-cost index tracking ETFs, making sure to keep their total annual investment costs below 1.5%. And step 4, they establish those loving but incredibly firm financial boundaries with their family. They simply do not make emotional decisions with rational money.
Crucially, they build adaptable plans that account for specific regional realities. Here in South Africa, for example, that means actively planning for currency fluctuations. It means preparing for local inflation that consistently runs above 5%. It means factoring in the skyrocketing cost of private healthcare as they age, and understanding the very unique tax treatments of local retirement drawdown funds. And they do all of this by working with fee-transparent professionals, not salespeople driven by hidden product commissions. I want to leave you with a final provocative question, one that wealthy retirees literally never stop asking themselves. What else could this money be doing for me? Every single rand that gets locked in an underperforming property, or consumed by hidden fees, or handed over to someone who really should be standing on their own 2 feet, that is money that isn't compounding. It's money that isn't securing the retirement you spend a lifetime building. So take back control of your capital, demand transparency, and protect your future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep protecting your wealth.